episode 22. Hello, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. I'm Vic Cundiff, and I'll be your host as we listen to eyewitness encounters involving one of the most terrifying cryptids, dogmen. Our guest tonight has chosen to remain anonymous. With that in mind, I'm just going to refer to him as John. John, welcome to Dogman Encounters Radio. Thanks so much for coming.
Hi, Vic. Thanks for having me.
We've got a lot to talk about tonight, John. Let's start right in with the first encounter. Your wife had an encounter of her own. That's what started all this off. But she has chosen to not come on and participate on tonight's show. I don't blame her whatsoever. But you told me that you would be able to share with the listeners the details of that encounter that she had. If you could start in by painting a picture for us to give us an idea of what the layout of the area was where she had that encounter, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, sure. Basically, the area is a heavily wooded area in the southern state. Where I'm from, there are several foothills. So this area is where my in-laws lived at the time of my wife's encounter. She was 16, where she lived at. We also lived there later on, which I'll tell you about here in a few minutes. But the area is heavily wooded, foothills. It's where I like to say that civilization stops, pretty much, and the wilderness takes back over. It's just one way in and out to get from town to where it's at. It takes a good 35, 40 minutes. And it's just a very wilderness-like area. In the summers, the undergrowth around the woods and stuff like that is very thick. It's like a jungle. You can't see 2 feet into it.
All right, now that we've got a picture of what the area looked like, if you could set in telling us about the actual encounter that she had.
Sure. She had her encounter in the driveway. The driveway is probably around 80 yards long from her front door to the roadway. And the driveway is where the roadway ends. So she got up early one morning to catch her bus, where she lived out so far away that she had to get up early. This is between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning. So she goes outside, but when she does, she locks the keys to the house behind her. And because her parents at the time, one of them worked third shift and the other one had to be at work real early, nobody was home. So she locks the keys behind her and she steps out and starts on her way to catch her bus. There's a curve in the driveway, and near the curve is a utility pole that's got a security lamp on it. And then at the end of the driveway is another utility pole that has a security light. And as she's walking on the curb, just reaching it, she's smoking, which she's obviously not supposed to be doing. And there is movement or sound coming from her right, coming from a wooded hollow, and then the driveway is flat, and to the left of the driveway is a field. It's got a slight incline, and then there's wood. So she hears movement to her right, coming from the wooded hollow. And as she's walking, she sees it, or hears it, and she throws the cigarette down. Her immediate thought was, oh no, that's my dad. That's just the first rational thought that hit her mind. So she can hear it. It's like a labored breathing, like it's tired. It's been out walking around for a while, almost like it's making its way home. And as it steps into the driveway, she sees it for what it is. She sees it clearly. She gets a full view of it. And at this point, she's only probably maybe 20 yards away from it. And when she sees it, she lets out a gasp. And it stops mid-stride and slowly looks at it. Turns its head to the left to look at it. And when it looks at her, she sets those same glances for about, she said it felt like forever, but in real life it's probably 10 or 15 seconds. But her a feeling of just dread, just like you are not supposed to see this. Don't tell anybody. And as strange as that sounds, that's what she said. And then just bounded from the driveway up that 4-foot incline, and in a few steps, it was in the woods. And she said she just stood there, frozen, listening to it run off down into the woods until she couldn't hear it no more. And at that point, she had no other option. The only thing she could do, and her only means of escape, was to run to the bus stop, which she did. And she said she ran faster than she'd ever run in her life.
Once she got onto the bus, John, did she share the fact that she had had that encounter with anyone on the bus?
Yes, she did. She told her bus driver that she had seen the only thing that she could rationalize that time was a bear. Now, where I live, we don't have bears. We really don't have any predators around here. We have coyotes. We don't have any large predators like bear or anything like that. We have deer, we have coyotes, turkeys, things like that. But there are no bear here. They may be introducing them now into my state, but at that time there were none around. I still don't think there's none around my area. But the bus driver, that's what she said. We don't have bear around here. You must think something else. So she gets to school, and we're dating at the time. She tells me she saw a bear in her driveway. Where'd you do that? She gets to school, and she tells me that she saw a bear in the driveway. I told her, we don't have bears here. And she starts describing to me what it was. She describes it to be taller than her dad. Her dad's 6'4". She said it was well muscled, like a bodybuilder, but bigger. Really thick muscles in the chest, the arm, and even though it had hair on it, it was covered in either dark brown or black, round inch-length fur all over it. But you could still see the muscle definition underneath. That its legs were bent backwards, if you will, canine-like. You didn't see the feet. Focus up higher. That it had hands, like fingers. She said like freaky long. It's one of the things that creeped her out about it initially, but how long the fingers were with long claws at the end. That the head was canine. Later on, after we talked about it, she said it looked just like a werewolf off the movie. But the head was canine, and then it had a snout on it. It wasn't a really long snout, but it wasn't a short snout either. It was somewhere in the middle. It had ears on top of its head that stuck straight up, like the German Shepherds. And they had little tufts of hair on top. And that its eyes, when it looked at her, they reflected the security light behind her. It was a yellowish white color, amber. And that right before it left, it did something. It wasn't like a full-on, like you see in a horror movie, snarl, but it did show its teeth, almost just like a gritting teeth, frustrated manner right before it jumped. So she told me all these things when she got to school, and I pulled up a picture. It was a drawing that they did of a dog man that they had seen. I just typed in werewolf. At that time, I had no idea these things were in existence. And I pulled it up, and she said, yeah, that's it, right there. What is that? I said, that's a werewolf.
Did you ever get the impression that your wife was afraid that after sharing the details of that encounter with you that you wouldn't believe her?
The way that she acted, I don't think it crossed her mind, Vic, because she was at that point trying to rationalize it herself. A bear. That's the only thing, even though bears don't live in the area, that's the only thing she could rationalize was a bear. And she had no idea about dogman activity just as I did. We had no idea these things even existed, never heard of it. We're students in high school at this point. At that point, no, I don't. But after we did some research and found out what it was, then yes, she was very apprehensive about speaking about it to anybody. I think of how a lot of witnesses are, because once you realize what it is that you've seen, most people will be very cautious in telling others, because it's just the sad fact that most people won't believe it.
That is a sad fact. It's reality, though. Your wife and I, as you know, we had a nice long talk about her encounter. It's pretty clear to see that that encounter really impacted her in a severe way. Since when you consider the nature of that encounter, the fact that she was so alone, the fact that the closest person, the closest help was so far away from her at that moment, it only makes sense that it would impact her so severely. But after your encounter that you both had together, I think 3-4 years later, which we're about to get into in just a bit here, after you had your own encounter with that dog man, or with a dog man, when she was present, did that, in your opinion, kind of help her deal with her encounter a little better? As you know, misery loves company.
Well, I don't think it did, and I'll tell you why. She never, for 1 second, thought that what she saw was not real. She knew she'd seen something. What, she did not know. But she never, it was such a vivid experience, she never thought for 1 minute that, have I had a momentary break in my sanity and I've gone crazy? So she was never like that. But I will tell you, when we saw it outside for the second time, she laid eyes on those eyes, or at least another set that looked like the one she saw back in her first encounter, that you could see that it shook her up pretty bad. And I should mention that anytime we talk about it, that it will just take her back to the place that she was in that driveway. You can see it, you can hear it, and it's just a visual change that's with her. It's just something that's been burned into her memory that you can mention it and it'll take her right back.
Oh yeah, I noticed that when I talked with her, she made that change. It was almost as if she was standing alone on that driveway again. It's a strange phenomenon, but with a lot of dogman encounter eyewitnesses, not only do they fight a battle with trying to get over the trauma of the encounters that they have, a lot of them also fight a battle trying to figure out if the effect that encounter had and is having on them is normal. There are a lot of people that see these things that not only ask questions about what dogmen are when we have our talks about their encounter, but they also, it's not uncommon for them to spend a lot of time asking questions about if they're taking a lot more time to get over that encounter than most of the other eyewitnesses that I talk with. So it's a double-edged, vicious sword. It's just so unfortunate. Let's move on to the second encounter that we wanted to cover tonight. Let's talk about the encounter that you had, John, where your wife came downstairs and she saw the dog man that you were laying eyes on.
Fast forward a few years, well, we fell on hard times, and we had to move back in with her parents. And this was just a few years later. So that put us right back in the area where she saw the first dog. So me being back there and knowing what had went on there, I was extremely interested to know if it was still around. So I had that interest, coupled with the fact that there was some weird stuff going on there. They had 42 cats that lived there. How did they get that number? when they moved into the property in the early 2000s, they brought some cats with them. And my mother-in-law kind of got a soft heart, so she would keep feeding these cats. The amount of cat food they went through was extraordinary. Cats would do what cats do and multiply, and other cats would come around, and that all leaded up to 42 cats being around here at one count at the start of the summer. It'd like swarm you. It was everywhere. Most of them were feral cats, wild cats. You couldn't pet them or anything like that. So these cats would go missing in the night. You'd see them one day, and then they'd go missing. And the interesting point about it is a lot of times when the cats would venture near the woods, you could almost bet that cat wouldn't be around much longer. And that was the case. If they get close to the woods during the day and they get a habit of going close to the woods, chances are they'd go missing. And the number drifted down in one summer. It went down to 10. The start at the summer was 42. The count at the end was 10. So something was playing absolute havoc on these cats. But the weird thing about it was that there's no evidence of something getting them. There's no when cats fight or something like that, or there's the fur fly. And it's true. There's cat hair that goes everywhere, but I couldn't find anything like that. I couldn't find any cat hair. I couldn't find any bones, any blood. There was no sound. You know, I stayed up late at night and there was never any sound of something getting these cats, but they were just getting taken in the night. So that was a red flag. A second red flag was that there was paths in the woods. I would go in and look around, and there would be paths that the team would go off in the woods, and they'd go for a long time. Now, of course, we do have deer, as I mentioned earlier, so deer can make game trails and stuff like that. But what a deer cannot do is have tree branches that are broken off at my shoulder level and higher. Something was moving through and breaking tree branches off. This is a clear as path. And no one goes in those woods. So that's the second red flag. So I would go out at night a lot of times, and I would sit and listen, or I would walk around if I heard a disturbance in the woods. A lot of times you'd hear a footfall. And it wouldn't be something quiet, like, you know how a lot of times a deer in the woods, when it walks, it'll try to be quiet. You won't hear them stepping on many branches. But whatever this is, didn't really care. It's just walking through the woods, breaking branches, just like a person would do if they were walking through the woods and didn't mind being hurt, just walking through the woods. So this would walk up, and you could almost set your watch by it. It would come up around 2 o'clock every night that summer. Every night it would come up. And there's a kennel of dogs in the backyard. They had 4 beagles that were chained up. And these dogs would just go crazy. And I mean, like something was hurting them. Absolutely go nuts. And you could go out there and you could hear them. Whatever it was would walk up behind their kennel and then make a left and walking in the woods, go back to where the yard wasn't anymore, and then just continue on in the woods. This would happen all the time. So I would go out and I would listen to it. I would try to go and take my flashlight and try to see what it was in the woods. And I never would. But if whatever it was would hear me outside or hear me open the door or hear me walk, it would usually stop. And it would take a few steps and stop. Or it would walk for a while and then turn around and go back the direction it came. So during this time, I would tell my wife that there's still something going on out here. I don't know what it is. There is still something out in the woods here. And I said, I think I get an idea of what it is. And of course, that of course gets her attention pretty well. She goes, you should really be careful in what you're doing out there, looking for this thing. 'Cause if it's what I saw, you don't want to see it. You don't want to be around it. So one evening we came back from a fair. And normally, in the summertime, we'd be outside or in the yard or doing something like that. But this day was different because we'd been at the fair all day. We was tired. My daughter was just a baby, just a few months old, so we was just laying low in the house that evening. And around 10 or 11 o'clock, there was a big bang on the side of the house. And there's a cat that makes the noise that the cats make when they're, it's an alarm, that screech the cats make. And it was startling because it just been real quiet. All of a sudden there's a bang and there's a cat screaming. So at this point, after all the wood stuff has been going on, I kept the flashlight and a pistol at the ready near the door so I could step out back or out front and just look. So I went up front and looked around, just out the front door, couldn't see anything. Rushed to the back door, sliding glass door, opened it up, turned on the back porch light, and just did a quick scan with the flashlight. And in the backyard was a tree stump. The tree stump's taller than I am by a couple of inches. And out there, above this tree stump, is these two eyes. Two yellowish-white eyes looking back at me. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God. Because I instantly thought about what she had seen in the driveway and what I suspected was out there all along. So when I spotlighted it, it ducked. It was not a fast duck, but it was a slow, I'm going to sneak down behind this stump type of movement. And when it did that, it scared me, so I just instinctively took the flashlight and hit it real hard against the side of the house. And when I did that, the eyes came back up. So at this point, I yelled to my wife, come here, you've got to see this. And she gets out to the back steps where we were standing, and she sees it, and she goes, oh my God. So we're sitting there looking at this thing, and it would go up and look above the stump, and here it would go down. And then it would crouch down, and it would peek around the side of the stump. Sometimes we saw one eye, and sometimes we saw two. So we did this for probably 5 or 6 minutes, just watching this thing look at us. And if we wouldn't make any noise, it would stay behind the stump. Take the flashlight, indicate the side of the house, it would look around, like you were wondering what we were doing. And one of the times when it was looking at it, above the stump, I got these binoculars that had a slight night vision function to them. They didn't work really well. One of us would hold the flashlight, and the other one would look through the binoculars at it, trying to get a good look at what it was. When I looked through, you could see that the head was large. It wasn't like ours, it was oval, more circular. And from what we could see through the binoculars at night, again with just the light from the flashlight on, the back porch light, was that the eyes on it were large. I couldn't see eyes, I could see the eye shine. And they were slanted. Ours are pretty much straight on. These had a cant to them. And I could see the top of the nose, whatever it was, most definitely did have a snout. So I could see the top of it, the bridge of the snout, and that's where the eyes went down and met. And, of course, seeing that, I mean, just immediately, it creeped out. I freaked out the entire time, but actually looking through the binoculars and seeing it for what it is, and just everything put together, it's just us there. I have a .40 caliber pistol, and I thought this whole time, I'm going to shoot it. Look through the binoculars. I really wanted to shoot again because, well, I don't know, for me, that's just what I wanted to do. I saw it as a threat, and I wanted to get rid of the threat. But just as I was getting ready to shoot it, actually was, putting pressure on the trigger, my wife was like, stop, don't do that. I was like, well, why not? She said, well, what if you make it mad? What if the .40 caliber round is not big enough to take this thing? Because it's just us that's up here. And our daughters inside. And so that thought was both scary and rational at the time. So we ended up just going back inside and securing the house, and that was it.
Thank goodness that was it. I'm so glad your wife told you not to shoot it, especially with that 40 caliber pistol. She was right. More than likely, it would only just make it upset. And considering that you did have kids in the house, who knows what could have happened from there. We're going to keep John's identity anonymous on the show here, and consequently, I'm not going to reveal where he lives or where he was living at the time with his in-laws. All I can share with you on that is the area where that house is. If there's a Dogman Central, that's it. So that would explain why you had those two encounters in a fairly short period of time. Now, having said that, John, there's another incident that happened after that I want you to talk about, involving the ranger. You were coming home from work that one night?
Yes. Yes. So one thing I wanted to mention was before the stump incident took place, I would go in the woods. I mean, for miles, a mile or two in the woods, and I would follow paths, and I would look for signs, look for footprints, look for, again, those broken off tree branches, trying to find bedding or structures or anything I could to document this, whatever it was, and again, to primarily see if it was still in the area. And I was successful in getting a few prints, but after the stump incident happened, that was good enough for me. It was clearly still in the area, which, again, that freaked me out pretty bad, so I no longer went in the woods until later. But for a long time, I did not venture in the woods until curiosity got the best of me again, and I took the risk of going back in the woods later, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But I worked at a job where I was armed, and my part-time job was close to my full-time job, so a lot of times I wouldn't change. I just go to my part-time job and stay in my uniform from my day job. So for a while I had this routine where I would come home. This was shortly after the stump incident, to where I would come home and get there around 12 or 12:30. And in the driveway at that time, there was a chain that my in-laws had up. You had to pull up to the chain, take the chain off, pull through, and then put the chain back up. As I got out of my vehicle, my window was down. As I got out of my vehicle, I was always real cautious. This is at nighttime, and I know what's out there. So it's a very cautious and high alert situation anytime you're outside at night. So I got out of my vehicle, I went and took the chain down, walked it across the driveway, and as I was just getting ready to drop it on the ground, there was movement in the woods, probably 10 feet from where I was at. I did not hear the, whatever it was, approach, and I was listening for that. So what that means is whatever was there was standing there. It was standing there when I pulled up. It did not walk up on me. It was there, waiting. So immediately I drew down in the woods. I took my pistol out of its holster, and I hollered into the woods. Hey, if you're ever in the woods, you can shoot. Of course, there was no answer. So standing there in my headlights, again, I'm on high alert. I'm nervous. I don't know what's in the woods. I've got an idea of what it is. But I don't want to shoot, again, because rationality plays into it. What if it is a person? What if it's something? You should never shoot, just go out into the woods. But at that time, I got to tell you, I was certainly thinking about it. So I dropped the chain, and again, I was in my headlights. I could not see, so I just put my hand out on my truck, and I slid my body along the side of the truck, again, just keeping the pistol out on my side. until I got to where I could jump in my vehicle and drive down to the house. And so when I did that, I got out and I ran inside, grabbed my wife, and had her come out to the driveway with me. I always like, as long as it was close to the door at least, so we could make a fast retreat if we had to, have her with me. At least there'd be two people that's seeing and hearing the same thing. 'Cause it's such an unbelievable thing that's going on. And whatever it was, that same type of footfall I was talking about, walked in the woods, but it didn't come out in the yard. Just walked the perimeter of the yard, in the woods, all the way around. Again, in summer, you just cannot see in the woods during summer. It's so lush with vegetation you can't see. And it walked around the yard, around back behind the dog kennel where it always seemed to come from, and walked back down deep into the woods. But whatever was there, and I have a good idea what it was. I don't know for sure because I didn't see it, but I'm almost certain it was what was behind that stump was waiting for me. And I get the feeling, based on what I know now, because I was in the woods and because I saw it just a few days prior to that, it was saying that you've been looking for me, and you've seen me, I'm looking for you. Here I am.
When that encounter happened with whatever that was in the woods, at that moment, did you start to get the impression that maybe it was more than one dog man that was around your area, or did you, it sounds to me like you had the impression that it was probably the same one that you and your wife had seen looking at you over the top of that stump that day that was still hanging around and checking you out?
At that time, I thought it was still the same one. Now, I don't know.
The day that you contacted me to tell me about everything that had happened on that property, you told me, if I remember correctly, that the day before you had snapped that picture of the footprint where you had gone deep into the woods looking for these things. Knowing now what you know, I'm sure chills just have to run up your spine thinking about knowing about the kind of danger you were putting